So in the last class, we were looking at forward checking. We looked at the concept of forward checking and other methods that we can use to test or to go through a constraint satisfaction problem, right? So we looked at minimum remaining variable heuristic. We had forward checking. We also had degree heuristic, and they contributed differently to how we resolve constraint satisfaction problems, right? So let's look at other terminologies that we need to look to be cognizant of when we're talking of CSPs, right? So the first one is called node consistency, right? Node consistency. So node, right? Node, if you're saying a node in a network, in any junction point can be called a node. So it is at that point, right? It is that point. So we say that a variable or a node, a variable is node consistent, right? If all the values in the variables domain satisfy the variable's unary constraints, right? So this is a lot of English, but what I'm trying to say is that when you look at node consistency, we are saying if we're taking of 5 people or 4 people in a room, right? And we're saying we want to order pizza, right? To satisfy node consistency means we have to satisfy all the individual requirements of all the 4 variables. That is, you need to be able to satisfy the preferences, what they like. So in the example of pizza, there are some people who are vegetarian, for example, vegetarian, right? And there's some people who only eat halal, so anything with bacon and stuff like that they won't take, right? There are some people who do not eat beef and so forth, right? Who only eat white meat. So when you look at that, when you want to order pizza for a room of people, right? You want to make sure that we say that for that problem you satisfy node consistency, we say that you have managed to satisfy all the individual requirements of the variables or the guys that are inside that room. Right? So that is what node consistency means. So in this map coloring example, let's say people for Western Australia do not like the color red. Right? They don't like red. So it means if you check before we're starting painting this one red, that means this one can only be green or it can only be blue. Right? So already for us to satisfy node consistency, we're saying that we have to ensure that whatever allocation or wherever we start, Western Australia doesn't get allocated red. So that's it. That's how node consistency works. Right. So I don't know if there's questions there. Any question on node consistency?
No.
Yeah. Cool. So node consistency satisfies a single variable. You want to satisfy the internal demands of a single variable. Right. Now, if you, I don't know if you remember, I'm just gonna go off topic here. If you remember, if you've done 3761, when you look at model logic, remember we had, you could have P implies Q, and it would be different from P implies Q. This was a relational constraint, or this was the internal constraint, but anyway, not a story for today. If you can see the relation there, that will be perfect. Right, next one we look at arc consistency. So arc consistency, we say that a variable in a CSP is arc consistent. So we look at variable level, right? We say if you have 4 variables A, B, C, D, A can be arc consistent and B, C, D not, right? Or C can be arc consistent and others may not be, right? So a variable in a CSP is arc consistent if every value in its domain satisfies the variable's binary constraint, right? So more formally, right, if you have a variable xi, we say it's are consistent with respect to another variable if for every value in its current domain there is a variable, a value in the domain that is left for the other one, right? So what does it mean? You look for all the relations that exist, right? It's related to this one, it's related to this one. So we have got West Australia is related to Northern Territory, and South Australia is related to West Australia as well. So we also have West Australia is related to South Australia. So these are all the territories that have got a direct relationship with Western Australia. So for Western Australia to satisfy our consistency, it means that it needs to have in its domain to choose elements and make sure there's enough elements left for allocation for the other two. So it's not relational. We're saying Western Australia choosing to take, for example, if we say, let's say this already been taken to be red. Right? We know there's a Northern Territory and South Australia. Right? We say that, let's say, let's give this one green. Northern Territory becomes green. Right? So Queensland, if Queensland wants to satisfy arc consistency, it cannot be blue. Because if it is blue, if Queensland takes blue, then South Australia doesn't have anything in the domain to satisfy it. So for Queensland, in this particular case, to satisfy arc consistency, it cannot take blue, right? So which means, though it may prefer blue, it will end up going for red, for example. And then it means it has left an element in the domain for South Australia and for New South Wales. I don't know if that makes sense. Right. If there's no questions there, we can move on to another form of consistency. Path consistency. We say that a two-variable set is path consistent with respect to a third variable if for every assignment, right, we leave for every assignment of xm that satisfies the constraint xi and xj, right? Right. Sorry. If for every assignment xi and xj, there's xm that satisfies the constraint. Okay, cool. So what they're saying is, if you assign to x and you assign to y, right, these two assignments should ensure that z has something. Right. So we're saying, how is this? This is related to this, and this is related to this. So, or rather, let's put it this way. We're saying this is related to that and is related to that. So if there's 5 to share, this one cannot take 4 and this one take 1 and not give this one anything. For there to be path consistent, we are saying you are supposed to take a few, right? So even if you take 2, right? This one cannot take 3 because this one doesn't have anything. But if this one takes 2 as well, which means this one will at least have 1. Right? Or we can play around with the combination as long as there is something that will satisfy the requirements of the third one. So we call that path consistency. Right? So there's zero for transitivity, it ensures transitivity in a way. So path consistency, we're saying if two variables, right? We say there's path consistency for two variables, there's an assignment leading to an assignment for the third guy. So we call that path consistency. Right. So what you see is we had node consistency, we had arc consistency, we had path consistency, right? Path, right? So here it was unary, you dealt with 1, here we dealt with 2, here we're dealing with 3, right? So we can generalize it and have what we call K consistency, right? Where we say a variable is K consistent if for any set of K minus 1 variables, and for any consistent assignment to those variables, a consistent value can always be assigned to the kth variable. So it has always been -1. So we're saying path is what we're saying if you've got 3 variables, 2 will satisfy the third one. Here, you have to satisfy for 2. You have 2 variables. The first one, your choice for this, make sure that there's something for that. Node consistency, it's only 1, you satisfy internally, right? So K consistent, we are saying consistent. We're saying that you have got K minus 1 variables that have assignments. So let me write it here. So K minus 1 variables have assignments. They have assignments that allow K variable to have an assignment. An assignment. Okay. So K minus 1 variables have assignments that allow the K variable to have an assignment. So we're saying if we join and we are saying it's we have 5 variables and you've got 6 to share. We're saying if this one takes 2, no one else can take 2, it will be 1, 1, 1, 1. Right? For it to be path or K consistent. Right? So if this one takes 2 again, it means at some point someone is not going to have any. And if in that given condition, it will not be allowed. So that is K consistent. It's an extension of path consistency, but now dealing with K variable. Any questions there?
I don't know. The first two I managed to get grip of them, but the last one, especially when you talk about the 2, and you said the other one must take 1, 1.
Right.
Maybe it's, I'm lost there.
Okay. So let me reiterate. So what I was trying to say is to say that let's say you're a family of 3, right? So there's the father here, the mother, and the child, for example, right? If you buy pizza, right? I don't know how they slice it nowadays. 8 slices of pizza, right? If you say you're the father, you go and you eat 7 slices of pizza. Eat 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right. Do you think that the other 2 will be full?
No.
Right. So it means if we have got 3 people and one person ate 7, 8 of the pizza, right? Chances are this one can just take one, the slice remaining, and this one will not get. Right? So we're saying if you take 7 and then this one takes 1, this one gets 0. Right? So there's no more allocation for the child. So we're saying it's not path consistent. So whatever these two do to this pizza should ensure that there's something left for the child there, for it to be path consistent. So the allocations for these two, right, need to ensure that there is an allocation for the third one as well. Right. So I have certain circles where people have been saying, hey, corruption is not bad, but the levels that you do it, if the people at the top are the only ones that are eating and there's nothing that is coming down to the population, right? If you're eating 1%, no one will bother you. If you're eating 99% now and only 1% is coming down, you're saying, hey, what's happening now? Right? So it's no longer path consistent. Right. So we are saying for any path that you're taking, right, we say it's path consistent when an allocation for X and an allocation for Y leaves an allocation for Z, an acceptable allocation for Z. Is that fine?
Yeah.
Right. Or another maybe it would make more sense that you know that choice assorted choice assorted box of biscuits. Right.
Yes.
You have your favorites, right?
Yes.
There will be chocolates, there's waffles, there's cream biscuits, you see. So everyone will have their preferences. So if your preferences are Z doesn't like chocolate, right? Which means you cannot leave chocolate only for Z to take. If X takes and Y takes, there should be some chocolate left, right? If X doesn't want cream, whatever with cream, then what happens? Whenever Y chooses and Z chooses, they are supposed to make sure there's some non-cream items that are left for X to choose. So that's basically what path consistency would mean. Your choice, 1 chooses, 2 chooses, should ensure that the next person gets, and we call that path consistency. I don't know if that clears things up or.
Yeah, this example is clear. Maybe I missed something on those 2, 1. Maybe the total was 3 or there or was 4.
So for the 2, 1, I think when I was dealing with is this one our consistency, right? This one you're talking about, or this one?
Yeah, this one.
Okay, so this one is one that I was just explaining now. Yeah. If it's clear, then I think we can move forward. I don't know. If it's not, you're welcome to.
Okay, we can move.
Right. So I then went on and discussed what a consistency means, just to say that we now adding more variables. Instead of having 3, we're saying if we've got 10, if we've got 10 variables, right? Then if 9, the choice of 9 variables, right, or allocation to the 9 variables is supposed to ensure that there is an allocation left for the 10th guy. Right? So we're just extending path consistency to more nodes. That makes sense?
Yes.
Then I think so. That's more or less what would be happening there, right? So this is an example. This is an example of this is an example of what a map coloring problem would look like. So map coloring problem for South Africa, they say that consider the problem of coloring the map of the 9 provinces of South Africa, right? As in Fig 3, right? Okay. Okay, sorry for this. Anyway, I just wanted to bring your attention to there was a question here on on constraint satisfaction problem in the assignment. Constraint satisfaction, right? Question 4. They say that explain why establishing a strong K consistency is a problem. And then I think we can look at that and then we move on. Right. If we look at K consistency, right, we have been dealing with search trees that can go to a lot of nodes. Like we know the chess problem, chess is good. Opening branches, how many opening moves are available for chess? I think we discussed that. We say that chess will have 8, 16, 18, I think 18 possible moves, opening moves. It branches into 18 nodes, right? That is and from there it further branches into hundreds of nodes, right? So proving establishing a strong K consistency is a problem. Why? Because it becomes impossible to complete how do I put it? To complete a search, because I have to prove K consistent or 1 million consistency for 1 million. So I have to do allocations for 999,999 variables to make sure that I have something for the 1 million node. Right? So it makes it intractable. Right? So that's why it is difficult to have a strong K consistency. So normally we have what we call localized consistency, where we are now saying we are dealing with here once we get here, we're now dealing with once we get at this point, we're dealing with path consistency for this. Right. So that's one of the questions that they can ask, why it's a problem to have a strong K consistency. Is that when the problems are large, the systems become intractable. Right. Let's consider this South Africa problem. Right. They say that draw a constraint graph for this problem. So a constraint graph, I think I mentioned it earlier, is just identifying the provinces in the constraint. So we're saying LP, right? We have Limpopo here. We have, in fact, let me move it a little bit there. We have LP, right? We have Northwest. So it's a representation of this map, but showing exactly what the variables or what the constraints, where the constraints lie. So if 2 provinces have a line in between them, connecting them, it means that they have a constraint between them, right? So we know that Gauteng is central, so we are trying to put it here. Northwest is linked, Limpopo is linked. We have something in Mpumalanga here. Limpopo is linked, Gauteng is linked. We've got Free State here. Gauteng is linked. And Mpumalanga is linked, right? And then we have got KZN here, right? Mpumalanga is linked, and then Free State is linked, right? Then we have somewhere here, we've got Eastern Cape, right? Linked to KZN, linked to Free State. And then we've got Western Cape and we've got Northern Cape. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we've got Northern Cape, we've got Western Cape. So Eastern Cape and Western Cape These ones are linked like this, right? And then Northern Cape also has a link to the Free State like that. Western Cape only have two boundaries. No, oh, sorry. This is Northern Cape is linked to Free State like this. Western Cape only has Eastern Cape and Northern Cape. And the Northern Cape also have Northwest over there. Right. So this is what we call a constraint graph for this. From here, we've just clearly highlighted where the constraints lie. So in a much more visible format. Hence the constraint graph. So you cannot draw a constraint graph without knowing the constraints that exist. You have to know the constraints that exist first before you draw a constraint graph. Right. So for 5 marks, we'll do this one. Next, they say explain how constraint propagation with minimum remaining value heuristic can be used to determine a solution to this problem. Give the first few steps of this process, that is until two provinces have colors in them. Right. What do you remember about minimum remaining value heuristic? Minimum remaining value is a problem, right? It doesn't break, ties, as we say. So when you are starting, everything has got 3 elements or 3 colors that can be assigned to it, or so many colors that can be assigned to it. Right? That already exists. So now, if you're using minimum remaining value, the first one is a gamble, right? So to answer this, they say that you have got 2 provinces allocated colors, right? But what's key about minimum remaining value is the starting point. So you have to make sure that the starting point is defined. So in your answer to this, you have to sort of give a mini definition for minimum remaining value heuristic. Right? So we're saying that MRV, it allows us to choose any province first. Province first as they have the same domain. Okay. Right. So that's a point there. And then we say, so initially you choose, we can choose Western Cape. Western Cape. Right? So if we choose Western Cape, what's going to happen? If we choose Western Cape and we assign it a color, so we assign it red. Right? If you assign Western Cape, let's assign it red. Right? This leads to Northern Cape and Eastern Cape having only 2 elements in their domain. Elements in their domain. Okay. Only 2 elements in that domain, so it will be green and say blue. Right. So given this now, we've painted one. So because there's no tiebreaker, you can choose any. You can choose any. Okay, like that. So once we do like that, so we choose Northern Cape and paint it blue. So 2 provinces have colors assigned to them. Does that make sense? Any questions?
So here, the question was that at least on those 3 provinces, you need to just come up with 3 provinces that you can allocate different.
So they say 2 provinces. So they're essentially asking you if you know the definition of minimum remaining value listing. When you apply it, how are you going to break the deadlines? How are you going to know which one to do next, right? How do you choose the first one to do? How do you choose the second one to do or the third one to do?
Or they want a process, like that thing you wrote here is like a process.
Yes. So you have to understand what minimum remaining value does and how it does it.
Or you can start anywhere, but you need to write this sentences that you just wrote now.
Yes, you have to justify where you are starting. Essentially, you have to justify where you are starting.
Yeah, Western Cape was far, like it's scattered.
Because remember, me as a person, it's easy for me to go to Gauteng because I know it is good. I'll have two here and so forth, right? But without going forward as an agent, I don't know all this information. If I'm dealing with MRV, but if I'm dealing with what's the name of that other one? Sorry, degree heuristic, right? I'll go and check which one has got the most constraints. Then I know GP is the most constraints. I start with GP because assigning a color to GP will reduce the domain of everyone. Then I know I go to the next one. Which one has got the most constraints again? I go on the degree of having the most constraints. So I'll probably go with a free state. Right? Once I have free state, I already know that what Mpumalanga is going to be. So additionally, what's going to happen is the colors that cannot go to Mpumalanga will become constraints as well. And we can build on like that. That's degree heuristic. It can break the what do you call them? It can break the deadlocks, right? But minimum remaining value does not know how to break the deadlock. So it's a point it will go for any. If you are writing a program, you are most likely to have an extra statement that says, if there's a deadlock, then go for the second one in the queue or something like that. You have to provide a rule or something like that to break the deadlock. Right.
And last one, the colors. Here we didn't have we could choose we didn't have a minimum colors that we can go.
No, so we don't even need to highlight with as few colors as possible, right? With as few colors, so I can even say color 1 because I don't know which color I'm going to use. Color 2, right? Something like that. Okay.
Kuda.
Yeah.
On the previous slide,
yes.
I think you missed one constraint. Northwest and Free State.
Yeah. There we go. Correct. So what's advisable before you do the graph, right? Normally you write all the constraints, LP, GP, write all the constraints down so that when you count, you'll be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Your lines here will align with or will go with the number of constraints that you have. So sort of as a sanity check or to verify your work as well. But yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So if we're done with this, let's look at provide a solution, not that it isn't necessary to show how this is determined by means of constraint correlation. You can just do so by inspection. So how many colors are needed to paint this one? How many colors are needed to paint this? So we can come and see start Western Cape. This is color 1. This can be color 2, right? If you do this color 2, then here you need a third color, right? Because this cannot have. So this one cannot be color 2, cannot be color 3. This state cannot be color 2, cannot be color 3, but it can be color 1. So there's no need to use color 4 if color 1 is available. Then KZN cannot be color 1, color 3, but it can be color 2, so it can be color 2. So here, Northwest cannot be color 1, color 2, so it can be color 3. Right? Gauteng cannot be color 1 and color 3, it can be color 2. Right? Mpumalanga cannot be color 1 or color 2, so it can be color 3. Right? And then Limpopo cannot be color 3 or color 2, it can be color 1. Right? So the minimum, so to answer this one, we can say that you can write this in tabular format. After doing, you can write this in tabular format. Your provinces now, and you're now saying, so you've got your province, and you've got your color. Right, so you've got GP, MP, KZN, Eastern Cape, Western Cape, Northern Cape, Polokwane, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Which one am I missing? Free State, 8. Which one am I missing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Northwest. So Northwest. And then you can see, this is, so you're now writing the colors that we gave here. Color 2, color 3, color 1. So GP, you can say color 2, MP is color 3, Polokwane is color 1. Northwest is 3, Free State is 1, Northwest is 3, Free State is 1. Then we've got
Western Cape is 1.
What's KZN? KZN is 2. Northern Cape is 2 as well. KZN is 2. Northern Cape is 2 as well. Western Cape is
1.
Western Cape is 1. And Eastern Cape is 3. C1, C3, like that. So this will be the allocation. So we can see by inspection, we see a minimum of 3 colors will be required. Of 3 colors will be required. Will be required. Right. That. That is the actual solution. A minimum of 3 colors will be required. Hmm. Then we move on from there.
Yes.
We have another sort of a problem that we can look at. A scheduling problem. Right, a scheduling problem. Right. In a scheduling problem, right, a company offering airport shuttle services has a limited number of shuttles with which to transport clients to the airport. The following clients booked for the same day and need to figure out how to accommodate all of them. The company is located at the airport and guarantees only one client per shuttle. Okay, fair and fine. Right, so this is the client list. This is the shuttle departure time and the travel time too for the round trip. And assume that the travel time indicated provides enough time for any shuttle to travel to a client and to transport them to the airport, and that the departure time indicated provides the time at which the shuttle will depart to pick the client up. Right. So we're saying if the shuttle departs at 10 o'clock, 35 minutes is enough for the shuttle to go to the client's place, collect them, and come back them and drop them off at the airport. Right. Based on abstraction, what we are not considering is, oh, so what happens when there's traffic? We are saying there is enough travel time included here for you to collect the client and come back. Right. There is enough. Okay. Now that we've seen that, let's look at the questions. Define the variables for this question. What do you think are the variables for this question?
Before we go to the variables, what about sharing?
They're not allowed to share.
Okay.
It says, I think it says here,
one pair.
Where is it? The company is located at the airport and guarantees only one client per shuttle.
That's that part. Okay.
All right. So the variables, what are the variables? We say the variables are the affected parties. In any business, who's the variable?
The client.
So the client is the variable. You want to make sure that you don't clash the timetable for collecting the clients. So variables are the clients. Variable are the clients. Where we're saying variable var will be a set of the clients. We say A, Bonnie, Charlie, Dozy, Erica. Abe, Bonnie, Charlie, Dozy, Erica. So these are the variables. 2, define the domain for each variable in the CSP. What is the variable? The domain. What is the consumed entity?
It's time.
The?
The time to return.
Is the client consuming time? What are they consuming? What business resources are they eating up?
To travel, to use that car.
The shuttle or the car, right? So domain domain for each variable will be the shadows available. With the shadows available. Okay, right. So that will be the domain. We don't know what shadows or how many shadows are available, so we can say domain set of xi such that I is equals to 1, 2, 3, and x I is the ith shadow. Right. Then lastly, it says provide the constraints for this problem. What are the constraints for this problem? If you're looking at it, what are the constraints for this problem?
The time departure.
The departure time only.
Or including travel time. I don't know how we can add them together.
So we're saying that the shuttle availability becomes a constraint, right? Shuttle availability. So this shuttle is booked from 10 to 10:35. So if at 10:35, if this one is coming back at 10:35, can this one leave at 10:28 to collect money?
No.
Oh, I see now.
It cannot, right? So another shuttle has to go. So that's a constraint. So what the shuttle that takes Abe and Wongi already see a constraint there, right? But this shuttle is big at 10:35. It can leave and collect Charlie at 10:40. So Abe and Charlie do not have constraints, so as to say. This one leaves at 10:28 and comes back 45 minutes later. So 10:28 plus 45, right? We're going to have 10:58 will be 30 minutes. So we're going to have 11, 13. 11:13, it will be back, right? So Bongi and Charlie, this is back 11:13. This one cannot go and collect Charlie. So Bongi and Charlie have got a constraint there. Right. Now we look at 10:40 and plus 20, it will be 11:00. Right. So 11:05 plus 1 hour 30 minutes, it's going to be 12:05 to be 12:35, and then here 11:30 will be 12:10. Right. So Wongi, back at 11:13, they cannot also collect Dozy with the same shuttle because 11:05. So Dozy needs another shuttle, right? And then Wongi and Erika, this Wongi's shuttle is back, so it can collect Erika. There's no constraint there. And then we go to Charlie. Charlie starts at 10:40 and will be back at 11. So 11, Charlie can collect Dozy fine. There's no constraint between those two, and no constraint with Erika as well. Okay, sharp. Right, and then this guy, Dozy, is back at 12:35, so the shadow cannot collect this. So we've got Erika here. So they say constraint here. So now I've just drawn the constraint graph, but if we're going to write down the constraint, we say Abe is not equal to Wongi. Wongi is not equal to Charlie. Dozy or Wongi is not equal to dozy, and then theta of 1, 2, 3, and dozy is not equal to Erika. Like that. So this will be the constraints.
I see now. It's no longer colors now. It's time.
Okay, so let's stop there for today, and then we'll finish off on constraint restriction problems in the next class.
Okay, could I also the videos? I'm not sure whether it's me. Those videos are I see 4 of them there.